Welcome to Families in Faith Online. This week's lesson is more for mom and dad, helping get our priorities straight so that our homes can be a place of faith development. For the month of November, we will be looking at one single Bible passage from the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is the fifth book in the Bible and is attributed to Moses. While there might be some debate on whether Moses wrote the book or not, even Jesus himself attributes the first 5 books to Moses. Deuteronomy is the final book. It's Moses' last words of encouragement and training and instruction to both Joshua, his successor, and to all of Israel. It was written at the end of the 40 years of wandering through the desert, just before Israel was to go into the promised land. Moses would not be joining them. He knew that he was going to die before they went into the promised land, and so he was giving this last bit of instruction, a bit of summary. The word Deuteronomy literally means second law, or repetition of the law, and in many ways the book of Deuteronomy is repetitious. We're going to take some liberties with this idea of being repetitious with Deuteronomy by looking at the same passage for the next 4 weeks. Deuteronomy 6 verses 4 through 9, known as the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. This passage, along with 2 other small sections, put together are known as the Shema Israel, which was a very special passage of Scripture for the Israelites. They were to recite this passage every day, twice a day. It's been suggested that this is the first Bible verse that little Israelite boys, Jewish boys, would memorize. We see that Jesus knew this verse when he is asked later in his ministry which is the greatest commandment. He goes back and quotes the Shema Israel, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Probably the first Bible verse that he memorized. Well, we use the Shema today as the call for parents to be the primary teachers of the faith. It is the most important thing you do as parents, to teach your children about Jesus, to guide them towards heaven as their home. Nothing else compares in importance when we talk about our children. We talk about passing on the faith to them. If it's not our goal for our kids to make it to heaven, then all these other things won't fall into place. But if we realize that our most important task as moms and dads is to teach our children about God, then these verses start to become very important to us. Because not only do we see it as God's command for parents, God gives us the how-to, the instructions, a very clear roadmap for how we are to pass on the faith. The first word of this passage, known as the Shema, is hear, and that's the translation. Shema in Hebrew means hear. It can also be translated as listen up or pay attention. It means that what's coming next is very important. You need to heed these words. Well, we can translate it a little bit today by saying, listen up, people. This is important. You are to love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. You are to meditate and think about God's commandments and apply them to your lives. And it's so important that you teach this stuff to your children. And here's the roadmap for how to do it. Well, in the weeks to come, we're going to look over that roadmap that God has given us and take piece by piece how we can pass the faith on to our children.